your chaos coordinator, your scoundrel scheduler, your Wookiee wrangler. No droids, no bounty hunters, no Raylos, no sequel trilogy fans of any kind. We love Mando. We love the Book of Boba Fett. When Disney does well, we give them a carrot. When they do poorly, we kick them in the ass. And that is just the way it is. And if you don't like that, well, fuck off. Anyway, want to talk a little bit about, because WDW Pro put a rumor out there that Jon Favreau, and this might be the reason why, the Book of Boba Fett seems off. That he wasn't able to devote his full attention to it because Alan Bergman is basically getting him involved with a lot of other things for a new job. Now, Valiant Renegade and Cameron Pasha used WDW Pro's article, talk about it. And John Lasseter apparently had this position, but he was also the head, all right, of Pixar. So he was the head of Pixar Studios. And when he was railroaded out, I do not believe a word about the Me Too allegations or whatever. I think they're bullshit against him. I never felt in my heart that he did any of that. I think it was a setup. I think he was railroaded, and I think Kathleen Kennedy was behind it. I'm going to tell you why. So I haven't had anybody that, like, the creative consultant, overseer of all of Disney studios, who at the time would consult with Alan Horn, who was the head of all the studios, the chairman of all the studios. Now Alan Bergman is. And apparently, according to WDW Pro, Jon Favreau is now doing that. And it also gives him freedom. But see, here's again, if John Lasseter had that role, and, apparently he did, he still ran Pixar. I mean, he was the head of Pixar. Okay, so it wouldn't surprise me that we would see Jon Favreau basically running Lucasfilm, because he has the keys to the kingdom now. And I have no problem with that. I don't think anybody should. So let's say he's got that consultant role that John Lasseter had. I'm gonna tell you a story, and you guys, if you're a longtime subscriber, you know this. In fact, you probably tuned in when I did the upload video about it. 2018, early June or so, we were only in this house for like 2 months. And Craig Johnson at Reviews for You told me on the down low that there had been a conference call, and this was after Solo came out and bombed, between Lucasfilm California and Lucasfilm London, and Iger, Kevin Feige, and John Lasseter were listening in, and it was a goddamn food fight. Okay, it was awful, and basically each side accusing each side of not doing their job, and typical. It's their fault that this movie failed and whatever. This is right before Lasseter's issues, so-called, without any proof. Lasseter's issues came into the public eye. So he's sitting there listening to this. Kennedy, who I think saw the writing on the wall, her contract was up that October. And she saw something happening. And my theory is John Lasseter, I don't really think that she answered to him. I've never heard that in my life, but I think he was being set up to move to Lucasfilm. He is a Lucasfilm alumni. He was with Pixar when Pixar was sold by Lucasfilm to Steve Jobs. So he was there with Pixar from its inception to the day he was kicked out. Okay, he was at Pixar, and he went with Pixar to Disney. Okay, so he kind of is one of those people that kind of grew up under the watchful eye of George Lucas and understands how to tell a story. I mean, and you can see how well Pixar did under him. Hey, Dave, Toy Story, A Bug's Life, which is hilarious, Cars, and a bunch of others. Now it's not doing so well, and the reason why is because they needed John Lasseter. He was the creative genius behind it, kind of like how Star Wars needs, hi Kojak, George Lucas. Or, excuse me, somebody like George Lucas who worked under George Lucas, who's an heir apparent, and somebody who wants to preserve what George created. My theory is Bob Iger was seriously thinking of not bringing Kennedy back. And he was looking at either Feige, who didn't want it, or John Lasseter to take over Lucasfilm. And Kennedy basically got all of the rumors, hey Krypton, all the rumors up and running, and basically ruined any chance John Lasseter had of going to Lucasfilm. I really honestly think she set him up. He might have been, oh yeah, you're right, he did, Dave. I mean, he did. He might have been in some ways higher up in the food chain, but I don't. This is the first time I've heard that, so, and it doesn't really kind of jibe with me on that. I think he was being set up to go to Lucasfilm and clean it up. And Kennedy heard, got wind, and set him up. Honestly, that's what I think happened. And I will go to my grave with that. Because it just makes sense. So now we've got Jon Favreau being groomed, it looks like, for this consultant role with, basically consulting on all the projects. Okay, Walt Disney Studios, Walt Disney Animation, Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm. But he has the keys to the kingdom as far as feature films at Lucasfilm. Okay? Now, I think if this is the case and he's not running Lucasfilm, he can still run it if he has his own people underneath him. Okay? My opinion. I know a lot of people don't want to believe that he would take that job. I don't know why you wouldn't want that job. You just tell Alan Bergman and Bob Chapek and Susan Arnold, okay, fine, I'll take the job. But I get to hire and fire anybody I want. And then you just a clean sweep, which I think is coming. It looks to me like a lot of things are changing. And I'll give you a clue into that. But the thing about what's going on with that meeting I told you about, it was like early June 2018, is that Grace Randolph had the exact same verbatim story. The exact word for word story. Dave Pensack will probably remember it because we went live that night. I think Craig and I and a few other people. What I think is going on is that they're setting up not so much a head of the studios anymore, but that Alan Bergman is basically going to be running everything with a creative consultant that he can call and ask, is this okay? Have you read this script? Is it okay? That's what I think is going on. But let me tell you this. The fact that Grace Randolph and Craig had the same story make that story absolutely fucking true. Okay? Do not argue with me on that. That was a factoid that happened. It really did happen. Now, what is going on here? First off, we've got, Favreau basically being distracted. Duh. Okay. And, if this is true, I can see that. I want to give a message out there to the people who are shitting all over the Book of Boba Fett. And, you got one person on a panel saying, well, I only saw 2 episodes. There are 4. 2 were meh, and 2 were good. And the 2 that the saw were the meh ones. Okay? And notice how none of these naysayers say anything about episode 4. None of them. Because they haven't seen it. If you haven't seen the Book of Boba Fett, or you've only seen a couple of episodes, and you're shitting all over it, and you're probably a prequel hater. This is good Star Wars, and because you're such a bitch, you don't deserve it. Okay? Okay? Here's the deal. If we don't support Favreau, we're all fucked. Okay? When you've got people on WDW Pros, posting Star Wars is dead, and then long screed, which says nothing of the like, what the fuck do you want? Okay? Star Wars is not dead. You cannot kill a franchise. You can put it up on the shelf for a few years. But Star Wars is not dead. Okay? Maybe your fanhood is dead because you didn't get to, beat off to Boba Fett, going running around like a Rambo, which he never did anyway. Let me explain Boba Fett in the OT. 5 lines. He tracked the Falcon to Bespin, hit on Bespin, waited for Vader. He was given Han. He didn't trap Han. He didn't track down Han and confront him. I'm sorry, your big fat badass Boba Fett couldn't have handled Han Solo, especially with Chewie, and then add Leia into the mix. Okay, he knew it. That's why he kept it at arm's length. All right, not the cool badass dude that Din Djarin is. Okay, not by any stretch of the imagination. Oh, Jango Fett. Attack of the Clones gets into a fight with Mace Windu and gets his head lopped off. Wow. And you needed a whole backstory, and the books and the comics talk about what a badass Jango is. I agree, and that's what they want. So let's go into ROTJ Boba Fett. You see him, and he's, supposedly sinister. He nods to Boushh, aka Leia, and then tries to get Luke, and basically Luke just kind of, like that with him. And then when he tries to get Luke again, Han hits his vaunted jetpack with the gaffy stick, and he flies into the sail barge and into the Sarlacc. Okay, I want to ask you a question. Where on earth did you get badass Boba Fett from there? From any of that? Okay? He's a badass now. Okay? I mean, he's a nice guy. He's a crime lord. I ask you, was Michael Corleone a nice guy? Was John Gotti a nice guy? How about Albert Anastasia? Okay. How about little Nicky Scarfo? All right. Were they nice guys? Would you want these guys at your dinner table? I ask you, there's a question. No, they weren't. So the idea that somehow he's a nice guy now or soft is ridiculous. I mean, he even addresses it. When Shan, accuses him of being soft, he said it's made me hard. And what he means by it made him hard is it made him see the futility of being a bounty hunter, and working for people who had no fucks to give about him. He got paid and he was at their beck and call. Okay, that's not freedom. You can sit there and say you're a contractor, but you gotta wait for people to call you. Okay, there's a scene in Clone Wars where the bounty hunters are all hanging out at a bar which caters to them. And I am too, Ben. And you see like this screen and it has different messages going up about different contracts are out, and they're waiting for a fairly expensive one. And I'm watching that and it's like, that's not freedom. Sure, you can pick and choose, but you need money. I mean, in the Legends, before before Star Wars or Return of the Jedi and Empire, Boba Fett would go to this, I think he'd go to Zeltron, and had a girlfriend and was constantly broke. All right. Not like he was, hiding credits in his couch, cushions. Okay. That's not freedom. That's being irresponsible. All right. You get to be a crime lord. And there's a certain amount of responsibility. You have the freedom to hire and fire anybody you want. You have the freedom to, if someone pisses you off, put a contract on their head. Then somebody like you has to go find that guy. Okay? I mean, and you have the power of an army behind you, of thugs, hey John, and miscreants, So, I mean, I don't know what they want. I don't think they know what they want, but a lot of these people I've discovered are prequel haters. And if you've ever watched Rick Walters, I talked about this before, like a few days ago. Basically he did a video called "The Prequels Were Movies Star Wars Fans Didn't Deserve," and he was right. And I think the Book of Boba Fett is a show Star Wars fans don't deserve. Okay, if all you know is the OT, you're not a Star Wars fan. You're not. You're an OT fan, and there's a huge difference. If all you know is the EU, and you're so narrow-minded, and you're so caught up in all of that you can't accept anything else, you're not a Star Wars fan. Okay. Again, I've said this before, and I've had EU people agree with me. Those books couldn't be adapted right down word for word to the screen, even on a TV show. Okay? You just can't do it. And there was some pretty bad shit in it. I mean, the guy who wrote Shadows of the Empire, Steve Perry, not the singer, was bitching and moaning about the Book of Boba Fett. And I think Bounding Into Comics jumped in on it. And I'm reading this going, this is my take. Either the little bitch, and he is a little bitch, isn't getting royalty checks, or he's massively jealous that he didn't get to write it. All right? Or he's put up to saying something shitty. Okay? he comes off sounding like a jealous Karen. Okay. That's what, I mean, you know, and that is a huge insult to a guy. Yeah, come off looking like a jealous Karen. Cool, dude. I'm there with you. You know, and it I couldn't take him seriously. It was just a screed. And if you're gonna write a critique, if you're gonna write a critique, and you're just gonna bitch and moan, and let's say like you had something to do with the franchise. Hey, Star Wars Theology. You had something to do with the franchise decades ago. Okay. And you don't like the way it's headed, and you're all pissed off at Disney and how it's going, and you write something like that. Excuse me, I gotta do this. I'm sorry, I can't take you seriously. Because it's unprofessional to do that. Sorry, Ghostwriter, I don't want to hear this. You're on my channel, you're here to learn, okay? You can disagree, but open up your mind just a little bit, okay? Just get, get that tire iron in there and crank it open a little bit, okay? Learn something here, okay? If you're only an OT fan and you don't know the lore, you don't know anything about what happened before, like in the prequels, you've never watched the Clone Wars, then you're not a fan. You're an OT fan, period. You're not a Star Wars fan, okay? Because nothing that is going on with the Book of Boba Fett or even Mando would make sense to someone who wants to be ignorant of it, okay? All right? I don't give a flying F how you feel about the prequels, okay? I really don't. They're good stories. They're hell of a fuck of a lot better than the goddamn sequel trilogy. In fact, I used to feel like the prequels weren't that good till I saw The Force Awakens. And then I had the flu one day, so I binged watched episodes 1 through 6. And I went, now I understand it. Now I get where we're going. Now I fully embrace what George is trying to say. Then I started watching the Clone Wars. And the Clone Wars flesh out everybody. They flesh out, hey, Tom. They flesh out Anakin. They flesh out Padme. They flesh out Obi-Wan. You get an idea of what Qui-Gon was all about and just how important he is, not only in episode 1, but through every moment of Star Wars, okay? His very absence is the reason why Anakin fell to the dark side. Dave Filoni and George Lucas have said that. Qui-Gon Jinn is the key. Plagueis and Sidious knew that. Okay, I did a video on the Force and Plagueis and Sidious messing around and trying to basically bend the Force to their will, and the dark side basically using ancient Egyptian, Nordic myth, being chaos and not balance. The Force literally coming back by creating Anakin. So they're inadvertently responsible for his creation, but they're not his fathers. Okay? George kind of intimated that they were, but when I look at all that and I see what it is, I don't see them necessarily as his father or parentage. Oh, I am too. When I look at what they did is they caused the Force to react. Okay, so if that's parenting or creating him, then I understand it. But they didn't literally go, there's a girl, let's get the force to make her pregnant. They didn't do that. Okay, that's stupid. But anyway, about what's going on. So, the whole thing with the Book of Boba Fett probably could be Jon Favreau's new job. Okay, because he's been in Atlanta. He's been flying all over the place, trying to get the lay of the land. But I do believe that him. I'm not a fan of Colin Trevorrow's script. The reason why it was an insult to the Skywalkers. You can't call it. You can't call the show that movie part of the Skywalker saga with the bad guy, fuckstick, the mule, ugly ass Adam Driver as being the only Skywalker. Okay? In George's original, Kira's last name was Solana, and she was supposed to be Han and Leia's daughter. Okay? She was supposed to be their daughter. All right? And that's what they probably should have done. Because it's all about family. And this nobody who's what did that dimwit dipshit Trevorrow have her? Oh, she was a servant's daughter. That is so fucking upstairs, downstairs, British dumpster fire, boredom. You know, I can't. Why? Okay, just no. No, she was. If it's about the Skywalkers, then she needs to be a Skywalker. Okay? And if Luke is following the Jedi path and not having any attachments, then she'd automatically be, the mule face's sister. Okay? Which is what George had to begin with. So when I looked at Trevorrow's script, I'm like, there's nothing of the Skywalkers in this. There's nothing there. This is garbage. This is, some sort of melodrama made by the BBC. This isn't Star Wars. Sure, Star Wars is kind of a soap opera in some way, but it's about family, and I don't see her being any part of the family. Okay, I don't. And instead of, it's only slightly better, slightly, insignificant amount of slightly better than Ray Palpatard, okay? Oh, well, when they, if you go to Nerdonymous's long video about, it's called Star Wars Apocrypha, and it's about the making of the sequel trilogy, and he basically foists all the blame on JJ. Let me explain how this goes. JJ is the director. Okay? JJ is the director. He is not the one who ultimately decides what's in the story. It's KK, Alan Horn, and Bob Iger. Okay? They bring in has-been Larry Kasdan, and JJ is going to be a yes ma'am, no ma'am. And of course, when you have him sitting there bitching about midichlorians and stuff in interviews, he's saying what they want him to say. Okay? He's a little puss. All right? And there's a lot of really good in the Star Wars in that video thing. And JJ does bear responsibility because he should have said, I am not doing the script unless we do George's treatment. Okay? It's either what George wanted or nothing. He could have killed it right away. or we don't have Han, Luke, and Leia in this. Okay, it's either about them and their family and their progeny, or it's not. You can't have both. And they've tried to have both, and it didn't work. And, the fact that I don't know if I agree with Nerdonymous about JJ approving Rian Johnson's treatment of in The Last Jedi, the script. I don't think he did. There's too much out there saying that JJ, they consulted, but JJ wasn't happy with The Last Jedi. And he just didn't, he was just like, I don't know. There's something about that story that makes sense. Okay. JJ did a script treatment, but it was after, the balding roundhead started writing it. Okay. His own script. And if JJ wrote a script treatment, why did Rian Johnson first script get passed in a draft mode? I think Carrie Hart got fired because of that. I really, really do. I think that she was the person behind it getting passed, and they went with it, and it turned out to be a fiasco. And I honestly think it wasn't what JJ wanted. That doesn't mean that JJ isn't to blame for a lot of this. JJ is not an alpha male. It is not like you've got Ridley Scott or Christopher Nolan or Steven Spielberg or you name it. Peter Bogdanovich or Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola. You name Brian De Palma. My friend Leslie's husband, Robert Zemeckis, sitting there going, I am not doing this. I am not doing this. Let me repeat and let me write it in crayon. This script sucks. This storyline sucks. This is not what George wanted. I'm not doing it. Because if somebody like that had directed The Force Awakens, it would not have been that movie that we got. It would have been what George wanted to do, and maybe, when you put a script treatment, it's an outline. That outline does not survive the first draft, second draft, third draft of the script. Okay, you get an out. If you look at the first draft and outline of The Empire Strikes Back, it's way different than the movie. Okay, this is what you get. What you get when you get to the final draft of the script is going to be massively different. All right? JJ did not fight for any of it. I don't think that guy, if his mother is being attacked by cats, hey, Carlos, I don't think that guy would do a damn thing. Yeah, and you're right. Bob Iger even admitted they had a hard release date, and that's what they were going to do. And that is stupid. Okay, that is stupid. A movie like this you have to have time to write the script. You have to think about what the story is going to be. You have to remember that there's an entire franchise behind it with lore and everything. And the idea that they completely ignored George Lucas's ideas for it is just, it's my opinion, it's heartbreaking. That's, and I think honestly that Jon Favreau will not let that happen again. It just won't happen again. Excuse me. And it's going to take a long time, like Doomcock says, for improvements. And I'm going to tell you guys who are upset with the Book of Boba Fett and think he was such a badass in the OT and never read any of the lore behind him in the EU or in other places. Never saw Clone Wars, because in Clone Wars he didn't like torturing people. He wouldn't do it. He wanted revenge on Mace Windu and the Jedi, but when he saw Aurra Sing and other bounty hunters hurting their targets, it upset him. So when you see Boba saying, I'm not torturing people in this is not a stretch for the character. So, and again, after watching the OT for the millionth time, I don't know where you get badass bounty hunter. Just because Vader goes up to him and says no disintegrations, that doesn't mean he's a badass. That means he's going to put someone down if he's going to have trouble with them. Din Djarin didn't put people down. He threw them into carbonite. All right? That's a badass bounty hunter. All right? Totally different. Totally different. When you get into different parts of the lore, he's basically the Mandalore. He ends up working with Han, trying to find his granddaughter or his daughter, because his armor got stolen, and they discover that Jason Solo killed her. I mean, he's working with Han Solo. So, and I know that would absolutely make heads explode, because the imaginations, he's going to have revenge on Solo. Why? No hard feelings, mate. It's just business. That's basically, you can't get more mafioso than that. Okay? You can't. If you've seen The Godfather and like The Godfather, then that should be something that you are very familiar with. Okay? So, I don't know what you want. So, maybe you should tell me. But now I want to talk about something else. So, Pablo Hidalgo on Twitter. Let's go find him. Let's find him, because I can't wait to tell you guys. That's not the point, Ghost. No hard feelings. It didn't matter. It's in the past. It was business. Okay? All right, and it just and again, when I say people who don't like the Book of Boba Fett don't deserve it, and I mean that. The reason why I say that is because you can have a line like that. Are we doing this again? You can have a line like that, and people won't get what he means. I honestly think Jon Favreau thought that the fans were actually well-read and literate in Star Wars, and they're not. They're not. So let's find Pablo, because I want to show you guys this. And the reason why I want to show you this is it's now, usually you can sit there and say, okay, this is him, this is what he's doing. But every once in a while you get stuff like this. I want to show you this. Okay, so just get ready. Okay, not that anything is going to happen with him, but dispensable cog. And, I talked to Cameron about this, and Pablo is very passive aggressive. So he might have gotten a talking to that he's dispensable, but I honestly think that he's been told his time is up. They don't need him anymore. And that you know, and I think things are moving along. It said dispensable cog. Here, I'll grab it again. Just a second. Okay. Right above my finger. Interesting that he's got AFTRA behind his name. And the reason why I think it's interesting is because he might be telling people, you can't fire me, I'm going to get the union after you, or some shit like that. Because I could see him doing that. Okay? I don't think Disney at this point would care, but it just goes to show that something is definitely going on behind the scenes that we don't know. Again, because he's very passive aggressive, and it's one of those things that I would say we should pay attention to, because we know that his buddy Andy Gutierrez, who's been talking to him on. Oh, yay. Oh, look. Because we're all just dying to buy that. Written by... Hey, guess what? If someone sees that, send it to me. Okay? Send it to me. Because it's going to fry in the fire pit. This is... He's basically trying to make him make himself look like he's really involved with everything. But he's got to go. He really does have to go. And I think that whoever's in charge at Lucasfilm now, because I don't think it's Kennedy anymore, I think they know that. So yeah, I mean, he calls himself a dispensable cog. That's a pretty blunt way of saying I could find any monkey to take your spot, which is what a boss would say to him. Okay? So anyway, look, Midnight's Edge is going to be on in about a half hour. We'll give him a half hour. And I got to go because try to find something to eat here for lunch. And at 1 o'clock, I got to take the dog. He's getting groomed today. Getting all handsome and pretty. And that's it. I got to go. So anyway, talk to you guys later. Behave, be well. He was actually an extra in Revenge of the Sith. So he's been in actual movies. So I don't know what power he's got, but I don't see how that would help him with his job, which is basically the story group. But anyway, I gotta go. Anything new happens, or if Doomcock comes out with something more, I'll be back. I'm gonna tell you guys something. If you're not giving the Book of Boba Fett, you've only seen 2 episodes, I don't have anything to say to you. I don't consider you a fan. And the reason why is because you're looking at everything the wrong way. You're not a literate film viewer, TV show, story consumer. Okay, you're not literate. I don't know what you want. If you think a guy with 5 lines who literally followed someone and then had that person handed over to you after they were put in carbonite, by the way. And then your greatest claim to fame was having your jetpack smacked with a gaffy stick by a blind guy and you get eaten by the Sarlacc. If you honestly think that's the biggest badass in the galaxy, I can't believe it. I can't. Anyway, this is Steph signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy.